Supreme Commander Zaltek of the Vraxian Empire stood motionless, all four of his eyes fixed on the peculiar sight before him. In his centuries of overseeing the galaxy's most prestigious combat tournament, he had never encountered anything quite like this. "You're telling me," he rumbled, bioluminescent patches pulsing with disbelief, "that you entered the Crucible of Warriors, by accident?" Maya Chen, 5'4" and wearing hiking boots that had seen better days, adjusted her weathered backpack straps and nodded. "I was following the signs for the bathroom, actually. The universal symbols look pretty similar to trail markers. Next thing I knew, I was in some kind of registration chamber." The gathered Vraxian officials exchanged glances with their compound eyes. The humans' vital signs showed no deception, which somehow made the situation worse. Their most sacred combat tournament, the event that determined the galaxy's supreme warrior, had been infiltrated by a lost tourist. "The registration crystal accepted your biosignature," General Vexenar noted, mandibles clicking with annoyance. "By ancient law, we cannot deny you participation." He towered over Maya, his crystalline armor reflecting the starlight streaming through the orbital station's viewports. "Though perhaps you'd prefer a quick death now, rather than the prolonged suffering that awaits in the arena." Maya pulled out a granola bar from one of her many pocket zippers, unwrapped it with practiced ease, and took a thoughtful bite. "Well, I did come all this way to experience new things. My blog readers would love this." Zaltek's translator must have malfunctioned. "Blog, readers? Oh yeah, I run a travel blog. Maya's Mundane Adventures." The mundane part is ironic. She pulled out a compact camera and snapped a quick photo of the assembled alien warriors. "Mind if I document this? I'll tag you guys." The Vraxian honor guard shifted uncomfortably. Their electromagnetic sensors detected no weapons, no advanced technology, not even basic shield generators. Just camping gear, some food, water purification tablets, and what appeared to be a very dog-eared copy of The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. "Human," Zaltek tried again, "the Crucible involves challenges that have killed beings who spent centuries preparing. Warriors augmented with the finest battle technology. Species bred for combat across generations. The last human who attempted this." He paused for dramatic effect. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask about that," Maya interrupted, pulling out a small notebook. "The memorial statue in the entrance hall. That pose looked totally off for load-bearing. Any real climber would have shifted their weight to the..." She trailed off, noticing the increasingly agitated glow of Zaltek's bioluminescence. "The trials begin at dawn," the Supreme Commander finally declared. "Your death will serve as a reminder to your species about their place in the galactic hierarchy." Maya just smiled, the same easy smile she'd worn while navigating monsoons in Southeast Asia or negotiating with temperamental yak herders in the Himalayas. "Cool. Which way to the competitors' quarters? And do you guys have Wi-Fi? I should really update my status." As she was led away by bewildered guards, Vexenar approached his commander. "Sir, the betting pools are already going crazy. No one's ever seen odds this low." Zaltek watched the human's retreating form, noting how she carefully marked her path in that primitive paper notebook. Something about her casual confidence disturbed him more than any battle cry or display of force ever had. "Post additional guards," he ordered. "And scan that backpack again. There must be something we're missing." But the scans would reveal nothing more than what they already knew, just basic travel gear, the kind any Earth backpacker might carry. Nothing special. Nothing advanced. Nothing that could possibly matter in the trials ahead. The Supreme Commander had overseen enough battles to trust his instincts. And right now, watching Maya Chen cheerfully chat with her stone-faced guards about local food recommendations, those instincts were screaming that something unprecedented was about to unfold. He just couldn't decide what was more unsettling, the possibility that she was hiding something, or the possibility that she wasn't. Maya woke to the sound of distant explosions. The competitor's quarters, a massive crystalline structure hovering in zero gravity, trembled slightly. She checked her worn Casio watch, 5:47 a.m. Earth time. Through the viewport, she could see 3 alien suns beginning their elaborate dance across the horizon. "Attention warriors," a voice boomed in multiple languages. "The first trial begins in 15 minutes. Prepare yourselves." Around her, other competitors were donning exotic battle suits and activating various technological enhancements. A warrior made entirely of living metal was running diagnostics on their quantum shield generator. A 6-armed being covered in bioluminescent markings was loading what appeared to be miniature black holes into their armor. Maya did her usual pre-hike routine, stretched, double-checked her bootlaces, and made sure she had enough trail mix. "Human," a melodious voice chimed. She turned to find one of the crystalline monks watching her. Their transparent form sparkled with complex mathematical equations. "Our probability matrices suggest you have a 99.998% chance of death in the coming trial. We recommend immediate withdrawal." "Thanks for the heads up," Maya replied, adjusting her pack's hip belt. "But you know what they say about statistics, they never account for the outliers. By the way, those equations floating in your chest. Your differential calculus is a bit off." Before the monk could process this, the arena's transfer beam activated. Maya felt the familiar tingle of molecular transportation, not too different from the jet lag she'd experienced crossing multiple time zones. The arena materialized around them, a vast ecosystem enclosed in an energy dome. Multiple biomes collided in impossible ways. Arctic tundra flowed into active volcanoes, gas giant atmospheres swirled alongside desert wastelands, and somewhere in the distance, a quantum hurricane bent reality itself. "Warriors of the galaxy," Supreme Commander Zaltek's voice echoed. "The survival trial tests your ability to endure the most extreme environments known to sentient life. You have 12 hours to reach the extraction point. The bottom 50% of survivors will be eliminated." Maya pulled out her notebook and started sketching a rough map. Around her, warriors were deploying environmental shields and activating survival systems. The living metal being transformed into a tank-like configuration. The 6-armed warrior created a bubble of normalized spacetime using their black holes. Beginning in 3, 2, 1. The quantum hurricane suddenly accelerated, sending sheets of reality-warping energy across the arena. Several warriors immediately activated their jump drives or phase shifters. Maya simply stood still, watching the patterns. "Just like predicting weather systems in the Andes," she muttered, making notes. "The quantum fluctuations follow the same basic fluid dynamics as high-altitude wind patterns." She began walking, not running, not teleporting, just walking at a steady pace that any experienced hiker would recognize as sustainable over long distances. Her path seemed random to observers, but she was following the natural lines of least resistance in the chaotic environment. From his command center, Zaltek watched in growing confusion. What is she doing? Why isn't she using any protective equipment? "Sir," Vexenar reported, "she appears to be reading the terrain. Like a primitive pathfinder. But that's impossible in these conditions." Yet they couldn't deny what their sensors showed. While advanced warriors struggled against the quantum hurricane, Maya Chen walked between the distortions as if following an invisible trail. When the Arctic zone met the volcanic region, she used the temperature differential to create a comfortable microclimate in the overlap, setting up a small camp to rest and hydrate. "Commander," one of the scientific advisors interrupted, "we're detecting unusual behavior from the quantum monk who spoke to her earlier. They're recalculating their probability matrices." In the arena, Maya encountered her first major obstacle, a zone where gravity reversed randomly. Other warriors were using anti-gravity generators or inertial dampeners to navigate it. She studied the pattern for a few minutes, then pulled out her climbing rope. "The human is using mechanical advantage principles," a technician reported incredulously. She's created a pulley system using basic physics to counter the gravity shifts. The six-armed warrior, struggling with a malfunctioning black hole containment unit, watched in disbelief as Maya swung past them using nothing but rope and well-timed momentum. "Need a hand?" she called out, pausing at a stable point. "Those containment fields look like they're oscillating at the wrong frequency. Reminds me of a faulty pressure cooker I once fixed in Nepal." Hours passed. Warriors with failing equipment were teleported out. Others succumbed to the combined environmental pressures. Maya kept walking, stopping occasionally to check her compass, which shouldn't have worked in the quantum fields, yet somehow did, or consult her increasingly detailed map. When she reached a section of pure chaos, a zone where reality itself broke down, she simply sat down and had lunch. The observing scientists were baffled until they realized, she had found the exact center point where all the chaos cancelled itself out, creating a perfect bubble of normalcy. "It's like the eye of a storm," she explained to a passing quantum monk, offering them some trail mix which passed right through their crystalline form. Basic meteorology. Some things are universal, I guess. As the trial's end approached, Zaltek faced an unprecedented situation. The human hadn't just survived, she had used less energy and resources than any other competitor. While warriors with millions of credits worth of survival gear were being evacuated with system failures, Maya Chen was taking pictures for her blog. "Sir," Vexenar said quietly, "the betting odds have shifted. Some are now favoring her." "Impossible," Zaltek rumbled. But watching Maya help a struggling crystalline monk recalibrate their probability field using nothing but a small pocket mirror and basic trigonometry, he felt the first real tremor of uncertainty in his centuries-long career. The human wasn't just surviving. She was making the most advanced warriors in the galaxy question everything they thought they knew about survival. The remaining warriors gathered before a sight that defied conventional physics, a massive chasm that seemed to bend both space and time. The bridge was a series of floating platforms that phased in and out of existence, each operating on different timelines and gravitational fields. Even the crystalline monks, beings of pure mathematical probability, struggled to calculate stable crossing paths. "The Bridge of Impossibility," Supreme Commander Zaltek announced, his voice echoing across dimensional boundaries. "A construct that has ended the ambitions of our greatest warriors. Cross it, and you advance. Fail, and..." He let the silence finish his sentence. Maya was sitting cross-legged near the edge, eating a protein bar and making sketches in her notebook. The surviving warriors gave her a wide berth. Her inexplicable success in the previous trial had made them deeply uncomfortable. "Interesting rock formation," she muttered, studying the crystalline structures that anchored the dimensional anomaly. "Reminds me of the sea cliffs in Thailand, just with more quantum uncertainty." The first warrior to attempt the crossing was the living metal being. They transformed into a sleek, aerodynamic form and launched themselves at the nearest platform. Their quantum sensors calculated the exact moment each platform would materialize, plotting a high-speed trajectory across the chasm. They made it halfway before a temporal shift caught them mid-transformation. The warrior froze in place, trapped between dimensions, before being teleported to safety by the arena's safety systems. "Anyone else notice the pattern?" Maya asked the nearest quantum monk. "The platforms aren't random, they're harmonizing, like geological strata under pressure." The monk's crystalline form flickered with calculations. "Your observation is intriguing. But crossing requires precise quantum positioning technology, which you lack." Maya stood up, dusting off her cargo pants. "Maybe. Or maybe we're overthinking it." She pulled out her climbing chalk bag and started coding her hands. Sometimes the best way up a mountain isn't the most obvious route. From his command center, Zaltek watched with growing concern as Maya began methodically unpacking various items from her backpack, climbing rope, carabiners, some basic protection gear. "Sir," Vexenar reported, "our analysts cannot determine her strategy. The human appears to be preparing for traditional rock climbing." Impossible, Zaltek dismissed. The surfaces aren't even consistently present in our dimension. Yet Maya was already moving, not toward the platforms, but along the edge of the chasm itself. She studied the crystalline formations with the practiced eye of someone who had spent years reading rock faces. The thing about quantum uncertainty, she called out to no one in particular, is that it's still bound by certain universal constants. Conservation of energy, for instance. She placed her first piece of protection in a crack that seemed to flicker between realities. The gathered warriors watched in bewilderment as Maya began free climbing along the chasm wall, moving laterally instead of trying to cross directly. Her hands found holds in places that seemed to exist in multiple timelines simultaneously. "Commander," one of the scientific advisors interrupted, she's using the quantum fluctuations themselves as anchor points. The probability of her hand being in the correct position is actually stabilizing the dimensional flux in localized areas. In simple terms, Zaltek demanded. "She's climbing through time itself, sir. Like it's just another physical dimension." Maya continued her traverse, occasionally pausing to place protection or study the shifting patterns above her. When she encountered a section where reality itself seemed to fold, she simply adjusted her technique. "Kind of like climbing during an earthquake," she explained to a fascinated quantum monk who had phased closer to observe. "You have to feel the rhythm of the mountain, move with it instead of against it." The six-armed warrior, attempting to cross using carefully calculated black hole jumps, watched in disbelief as Maya swung past them, using basic pendulum mechanics to carry her through a temporal distortion. "Your primitive equipment cannot possibly maintain integrity in these conditions," they called out. Maya checked one of her knots. "Sometimes the simplest tools are the most reliable. Want a spare carabiner? That quantum harness looks like it's getting unstable." Zaltek's command center was in chaos. The betting systems had crashed as oddsmakers struggled to account for what they were witnessing. The human was more than halfway across, using techniques that predated her species' discovery of electricity. "It defies all combat logic," Vexanar muttered. "She's treating one of our most advanced warrior trials like a recreational activity." "Look at her expression," another officer noted. "She's enjoying this." Indeed, Maya wore the satisfied smile of someone doing what they loved. When she encountered a particularly challenging section, she took a moment to snap a photo. "This is definitely making the blog," she said to herself. Though no one's going to believe the filter effects are actually quantum distortions. As she neared the far side of the chasm, Maya encountered her biggest challenge yet, a complete dimensional inversion where up became down and time ran backwards. The quantum monks had calculated this section to be theoretically impassable without advanced technology. Maya studied it for a moment, then pulled out her worn copy of The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. "You know," she said to the nearest monk, "Douglas Adams had some interesting things to say about improbability. Sometimes the best way to do something impossible is to not realize it's impossible in the first place." With that, she executed a series of climbing moves that seemed to completely ignore the dimensional inversion, as if her absolute conviction that she could do it somehow overrode the laws of physics themselves. When she finally pulled herself onto solid ground on the far side, a profound silence fell over the arena. Maya simply sat down, pulled out her water bottle, and began making notes about the experience. "Fascinating route," she wrote. 5.12a rating, with moderate exposure and significant quantum variation. Recommend bringing extra chalk. The remaining warriors stood before a shimmering dome of psychic energy. Only 4 had survived the bridge of impossibility: Maya, 2 quantum monks, and the 6-armed warrior who had finally mastered their black hole containment units. Supreme Commander Zaltek's voice resonated with particular gravity as he announced the next trial. "The labyrinth of minds will test not your physical prowess, but your psychological fortitude. Many great warriors have emerged broken, their minds shattered by what they encountered within." Maya was updating her blog using her surprisingly resilient smartphone. Like that time I got lost in Tokyo's subway system during rush hour, she murmured, adding a few hashtags to her latest post. Human, one of the quantum monks hummed, their crystalline form vibrating with concern, your species lacks natural psychic defenses. The labyrinth will exploit every fear, every doubt, every moment of weakness in your consciousness. Oh, I've got plenty of those, Maya replied cheerfully, checking her backpack straps. But you know what helps with anxiety? Snacks. She pulled out a slightly squashed package of cookies. The six-armed warrior activated their neural shields, black holes spinning in complex patterns around their head. The quantum monks phased into a higher state of mathematical existence, preparing their minds for the challenge ahead. Maya took a bite of cookie and stepped forward. The moment they entered the labyrinth, reality fractured into personal nightmares. The six-armed warrior found themselves facing their greatest military defeats across infinite timelines. The quantum monks struggled as their precious mathematical certainties dissolved into chaos. Maya found herself in what appeared to be an endless series of airport security checkpoints. Your visa has expired, 1,000 voices echoed. Your travel insurance doesn't cover this dimension. Your baggage exceeds the weight limit across all possible realities. From his command center, Zaltek watched in fascination as the human's vital signs remained remarkably stable. Report, he demanded. Vexenar studied the psychic readings. The labyrinth is confused, sir. It's trying to generate maximum psychological distress, but the human's responses are unpredictable. Indeed, Maya was treating the psychological torture chamber like another travel challenge. When the labyrinth confronted her with endless visa paperwork written in impossible languages, she pulled out her well-worn passport and began methodically working through it. You know, she said to the void, this reminds me of trying to get a transit visa in Uzbekistan. Now that was a real nightmare. The labyrinth shifted tactics, presenting her with images of being hopelessly lost in infinite, hostile alien cities. Maya simply pulled out her notebook and began mapping the psychological landscape, adding helpful notes like, good spot for lunch and, interesting architecture, very non-Euclidean. Commander, one of the psychic specialists reported, the human is, organizing the chaos. She's treating existential horror like it's a new hiking trail. The six-armed warrior stumbled past, their black holes flickering as they battled inner demons. Maya offered them a granola bar. Sugar helps with stress, she explained. Also, those reality fractures you're seeing? They follow the same pattern as the street layout in Venice. Once you see it, navigation gets much easier. The quantum monks encountered Maya in a section where pure mathematical chaos threatened to unravel their consciousness. They found her sitting cross-legged, using her notebook to solve what appeared to be simple Sudoku puzzles. The key to handling overwhelming complexity, she told them, is to break it down into manageable pieces. Want to try one? It's very meditative. Zaltek watched in growing disbelief as Maya's calm began to affect the entire labyrinth. Her simple problem-solving approach was creating islands of stability in the psychic chaos. Sir, Vexenar reported, the other warriors, they're beginning to follow her lead. The six-armed warrior just deactivated their neural shields and is, doing something called deep breathing exercises. The labyrinth, designed to break the strongest minds in the galaxy, seemed increasingly disconcerted by Maya's response to its horrors. When it showed her visions of being trapped alone in the void between galaxies, she pulled out her camera. The lighting is amazing, she commented, snapping pictures. This will make a great blog post about dealing with travel isolation. As the trial progressed, something unprecedented began to happen. The labyrinth's attempts to generate psychological distress became increasingly half-hearted. It was as if Maya's matter-of-fact acceptance of every challenge was somehow demoralizing the psychic construct itself. She's treating cosmic horror like it's just another tourist attraction, one of the psychic specialists noted with a mix of awe and confusion. When the warriors finally emerged from the labyrinth, the quantum monks were calculating new theories about the nature of reality, the six-armed warrior had taken up journaling, and Maya was reviewing her photos. "You know," she said to no one in particular, "the thing about labyrinths is that they're really just elaborate gardens. Once you look at them that way, they're actually quite relaxing." Zaltek stared at the monitoring screens, his bioluminescence pulsing with uncertainty. The human hadn't just survived the psychological torture, she had somehow turned it into a self-improvement exercise. "Commander," Vexenar said quietly, "the betting systems are experiencing an unprecedented shift. The odds makers are calling it the Maya factor. They're having to rewrite their entire probability models." Supreme Commander Zaltek stood before the three remaining finalists, his bioluminescence dimmed with gravitas. The six-armed warrior had withdrawn during the night, claiming a need to find themselves through mindful meditation, a concept they'd apparently learned from Maya during their time in the labyrinth of minds. "The final trial," Zaltek announced, "is combat in its purest form. No environmental challenges, no psychological warfare. Simply warrior against warrior until one stands victorious." Maya was doing her morning stretches while the quantum monks vibrated in probable states of readiness. She had posted her pre-fight breakfast, instant oatmeal with dried berries, on her blog, which now had an unprecedented following across 17 galactic sectors. "The combat arena will nullify all advanced technology," Zaltek continued, watching Maya carefully. "No quantum mechanics, no probability manipulation, no." "No problem," Maya interrupted, adjusting her bootlaces. "Though I should mention, these are non-marking sols. Wouldn't want to scuff up your nice arena floor." The arena materialized around them, a vast circular platform floating in space, illuminated by the light of three suns. The quantum monks split into multiple probability states, preparing for combat the only way they knew how, by existing in all possible fighting stances simultaneously. Maya took out her notebook and began sketching the arena layout. "Interesting acoustics in here," she noted. "Kind of like that cave system I explored in Vietnam." From his command center, Zaltek watched with the entire gathered aristocracy of the Vraxian Empire. The betting systems had given up trying to calculate odds and were simply displaying __/ across all screens. "Begin," he commanded. The quantum monks made the first move, surrounding Maya with 12 probable versions of themselves. Their crystalline forms refracted light in dazzling patterns, a technique that had disoriented countless warriors throughout history. Maya squinted slightly. "You know, this reminds me of that time I got caught in a hall of mirrors in a Korean fun house." She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small spray bottle of water. "What is she doing?" Vexenar demanded. Maya began spraying water into the air around her. As the droplets fell, they revealed the true positions of the quantum monks by reflecting their actual forms rather than their probability shadows. "Simple refraction," she explained to the bewildered monks. "Plus, the humidity was getting a bit low in here. Very important to stay hydrated during physical activity." The monks, their key tactical advantage neutralized by water vapor, attempted to phase into a higher dimension. Maya responded by pulling out her phone and playing what appeared to be whale songs. "The frequencies," one of the scientific advisors shouted. "Those sound waves are creating standing interference patterns in their quantum fields." "Oh, this?" Maya said, checking her playlist. "I use it for sleep meditation while traveling. Very relaxing. You guys look like you could use some relaxation, by the way. Your probability matrices are super tense." The monks found their carefully calculated combat algorithms disrupted by the simple harmonics of Earth Whale song. Their crystalline forms began to synchronize with the peaceful rhythms, probability states collapsing into calm certainty. "That's it," Maya encouraged. "Just breathe. Well, or whatever the quantum equivalent is." Within minutes, the monks had entered a state of mathematical tranquility so profound that they forgot they were supposed to be fighting. They sat down, in only one probability state each, and began what appeared to be a peaceful meditation session. Does this count as victory? Someone in the command center asked. Before Zaltek could respond, every screen in the arena lit up with an incoming transmission. The face that appeared belonged to the Grand Sovereign of the Vraxian Empire himself. Fascinating, the Sovereign declared, his multiple eyes focused on Maya. Most fascinating. Tell me, human, did you plan all of this? Maya looked up from where she was sharing trail mix with the now peaceful monks. Plan? Oh no, I'm terrible at planning. I just try to stay flexible and work with what's available. It's kind of the whole point of backpacking, really. The Sovereign's bioluminescent patches pulsed with amusement. You have accomplished something no warrior has managed in 10,000 years of our empire's history. You have shown us that our very conception of strength and combat was incomplete. Thanks. Maya beamed. Hey, while I've got you, any recommendations for good local food spots? My blog readers love authentic culinary experiences. The Grand Sovereign of the most powerful military force in known space burst out laughing. Supreme Commander Zaltek, declare the victory. And then perhaps we can arrange a proper tour of our capital world for our unexpected champion. As the arena erupted in chaos, reporters from across the galaxy demanding interviews, warriors seeking wisdom, and oddsmakers still trying to understand what had happened, Maya sat down and opened her notebook to a fresh page. Dear blog readers, she wrote, you won't believe what happened on my way to the bathroom. In his command center, Zaltek watched as Maya began teaching a group of elite warriors how to make friendship bracelets. Vexenar, he said quietly, send a message to Imperial Command. Recommend immediate revision of our combat training protocols. Add sections on basic camping skills, travel photography, and... He paused, watching Maya demonstrate a perfect marshmallow roast using heat from a quantum monk's probability field, and perhaps some Earth snack preparation. And sir? Vexenar asked, what should we do about the other humans who are now applying to enter next year's trials? The waiting list includes someone called a food blogger and something referred to as an extreme sports enthusiast. Zaltek's bioluminescence flickered with what might have been fear. Start stockpiling granola bars, he ordered. And update our Wi-Fi coverage. Something tells me the galaxy is about to become a very different place.